Welcome to episode 3 of the Purpose Pursuit podcast with Tim Batts, where we help you find your purpose, focus on it, and build a life you're proud of, mentally, spiritually, financially, and physically. Today we're diving deep with a man who's lived purpose in action for over 30 years. From preaching the gospel at age 11, to running for state representative, to leading a thriving business. Dr. Progeorlan Walker is proof that faith, focus, and determination can create an extraordinary life. If you're feeling stuck, searching for direction, or just want to hear the story of someone who's living it out, this conversation will move you. Let's get real with Progeorlan Walker. Man, I'm glad to have you here. I know we done chopped it up a little bit off camera, which is, I think we done kind of got warmed up for this right now. So I'm pretty excited about your story and what we're going to learn about today. I think you can help a lot of people out there. I think your story is an awesome story, and I'm excited to learn about it.
Man, thank you so much. I'm sincerely grateful. As I said off camera, I want to say it again publicly to you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here on the podcast today.
Most definitely. Kind of want to know who Dr. Progeorlan Walker is. I hope I pronounced it right.
You did.
And on point.
You did. You're on point.
Progeorlan Walker. Progeorlan Walker. You've worn so many hats: ministry, business, politician, family man. Let's start with the roots. Growing up in Memphis, what shaped you into the man you are today?
I think my hardship in life and my struggles and aiming for the moon and just being realistic. I think a lot of it stemmed from my grandmother. My grandmother always had me in church. She always had me under her wing, and she was a great woman of God. And so it was through her that I received or understood about salvation, the Holy Ghost, and being in church and understanding what it means to work hard and to serve. Because back in those days, the old saints, and I don't mean O-L-D, O-L-E, the saints of old rather would, they would have fish fries, car washes, bake sales. They would have rummage sales to support the local church. And so watching my grandmother work in the church tirelessly to ensure that the pastor at that time that we were under, while they were both living, to make sure that the ministry kept going.
Okay.
And so I think it's a lot has to do from my grandmother.
Okay. You touched a little bit on hardships. Can you kind of expound on those hardships that you're referring to?
Man, my hardships and struggles have been different from most. Some of those struggles or hardships, some of them were financial. Some of them were internal struggles where people make me feel inadequate, that I wasn't good enough or I wasn't this, that, or the other. There were just various struggles that happened, in different phases of my life. And so with those struggles, I overcame a lot of them. And that's what has helped groom me to be the man that I am today.
Would you say that, because you spoke about your grandmother, right?
Yes, sir.
That support from grandmom and the members of the church kind of helped you while you were going through those hardships, be it at home, be it personally, be it feeling inadequate? How impactful was it to have that support?
So let me kind of go back just a little bit. When I was with my grandmother, it was from and learning about the church and things of that nature. it was probably up until the age of 10 or 11 years old. Um, no, it was. I retract that statement. It was around up until about maybe about 8, 9 years old during that time around my grandmother. And so just working in the church, of course, I didn't know a lot of the people in the church because I was just a child coming up, of course. But nevertheless, while being there, again, I'm not fishing for a word, but I guess my level of my level of commitment has come through just being in the church.
Mm.
I blame it again on the church because it was good for me.
Mm.
It kept me out of the streets. It kept me from doing things that so many of our young people that we see daily in our communities and on the news that are doing. And so, if it had not been for the church, then I've been dead or in somebody's prison system.
Gotcha. So, you preached your first sermon at 11,
Yes, sir.
which is pretty rare for someone as young as 11. What sparked that passion for ministry, and how did that journey actually unfold?
I've always had a love for God. Sitting here, I love Him even now. I love Him the more even now. And I heard the voice of God while I was sitting in my mother's home in my bedroom, and I heard Him speak to me. And nobody's in the room but me. The house is quiet, and I heard Him speak, and I was like, wait a minute. And I started looking around. Honestly, I started looking around just like Samuel did with Eli. Eli, who calling me?
Yeah.
And so, honestly, I sat there, but I felt God's presence so strongly. I knew that it was undeniably it was the Lord speaking to me. And so let me go just grab my Bible right quick with tears in my eye and trying to make sense of what's happening with me at this very moment. And so I go and I grab my Bible and that was next to my nightstand, and I open it up. And I wasn't looking for any particular passage of scripture. I opened it up, preached the word. I said, okay, I'll tell you what, let me try this again. Close the book up, open it up again. That was another passage of scripture. They took, preached the word. Wait a minute. We're going to try this one more time. And just like what Gideon did, he said, God, if you want me to do so and so, then let the dew be on this fleece in the morning and let the ground be dry. So I tried again, preached the word. And from there, I accepted my calling and ran on. I called my pastor and I told him, I said, man, I just heard God speak to me and told me to preach the word. And he told me, he said, well, I always knew that you had a calling on your life. He said, but it was not my job to tell you that you had a calling. He said, I had to let God talk to you and deal with you. And so from there, I began to spend time with my pastor, with my spiritual leader, and learn how to work and how to do ministry, learn the importance of serving, learn how to work behind the scenes, and just so many different facets. I know we have a scripted format, and I'm not going off of that format, but I do need to say that I am grateful. Listen, man, I am truly, truly grateful because it was during that time that I was being nurtured in ministry that has helped me to become successful and where I am today at this very moment. It was washing the dishes at the church after the saints ate, in the fellowship hall. It was scrubbing toilets. It was cutting the grass at the church. It was painting the walls in the church. It was taking my pastor's clothes to the laundry. It was cutting his grass and seeing about his needs. It was making sure that the out exterior portion of the church was clean. And not only was I serving there, but I had an opportunity to be in the services and to be in the shut-ins. I was the only young or matter of fact, I wasn't even a young adult at that time. I was the only youth that actually had a key to the church. I spent my weekends down at the church cleaning and praying and crying out to God. And I remember specifically, of course, it's as time went on, and I didn't understand really what God was doing in my life. I was like, listen, if you're not going to use me, you can take me out of here. I told him right there in the church, listen, there's no need for me to be down here suffering. There's no need for me to be down here suffering and going through all these challenges and struggles if you're not going to take my life and use it for your glory. So if you don't want it, listen, if there's not a purpose for me, then listen, we need to exit. And I told him that in the church.
So right from the jump, you're saying if you're not going to use me for a specific purpose, then take me out of here.
Correct.
Because
we all
got a purpose.
Yeah, we all have a purpose, and we all are here for a reason. And if you're not going to use me, if you're not going to put me to work, God, if you're not going to, and I wasn't saying it being funny or anything like that. I have a place of desperation or hurt or anything like that. But why should I have to suffer and be down here with these folk when I could be in your presence for all eternity?
You see, that kind of gets me to thinking on obviously the spiritual side, and then you got the carnal side.
Yes, sir.
Of people actually suffering, not necessarily through anything that's really bad, but suffering from a standpoint of they're going through and going through and going through.
Yeah.
But they still hadn't figured out what their purpose is. So I think that's pretty impactful that you recognize at such an early age that, hey, I'm going through something. This got to be for something.
It's got to be for something.
And if it's not, God, take me away from this.
That's right. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
And a lot of that again is stem. God honestly gave. I'm young now. I was young, and I was young then, but as a young man, just because I was coming up in the shut-ins and being locked up in the church on the weekend, being locked up in the church on the weekend with the saints and the mothers praying, man, God gave and instilled in me a lot of wisdom at an early age, a lot of wisdom, and because of that, that has really, really been a tremendous aspect in my life. And has helped gear me toward the next place that I'm striving for. And so, just to be candid, it has been the time just spending time with God. And I'm not trying to take this podcast and make it into something that's spiritual, whatever. But I'm telling you about me, and I'm being as sincere as I possibly can. God gave, man, God would give me answers to test questions that I never studied for because I spent time with him. I would go and take tests for certain things, and he would literally give me the answer. There were certain questions that were on there that I was like, now I know I read all of this and I went over and reviewed my material. It's not like I didn't do my due diligence prior to, okay, let me say that, and studying and researching. But, man, I would take tests in schools and on jobs and things of that nature. And, man, the Holy Spirit would just give me the answer to them. I mean, literally. So God has always been in my corner all of my life. And I am so, man, I know this is a podcast.
No,
but
man, you do it. Come as you are, man.
Listen, I know it's a podcast, but I'm trying not to get emotional.
Now come as you are.
Because I honestly realize that if it had not been for the Lord, man, I've been messed up.
Yeah.
We have so many cliches that we use, so many cliches, but the truth of the matter is, if it had not been for the Lord who was on my side, where would I be? And so we're going to get back on track. All right, we good.
Trust me, man, you all right. This podcast is for us to have a candid conversation.
Yes.
We may have an outline, but as we go, however it goes, I want you to be true to who you are.
Absolutely.
And I think it's more impactful that you be true to who you are, because everybody else out there has their own truth. They're going through something,
Yes, sir.
and we're just human beings here telling our story.
Yes, sir.
So if you're emotional about what the Lord's done for you, or the path or journey that you've been on, the people need to hear that,
Yes,
because
sir.
they need to know that they're not by themselves, and you made it, right, and you're an inspiration, and therefore they can make it too. So be true to who you are. There's I don't want us to be scripted by no means.
Yes, sir.
So I think you being you is why I want you on here, because again, like I told you on the phone, I think you got a story that can be impactful to those out there.
But we talked about uh struggle and earlier or a few moments ago, and sitting here, we go through so many things in life till sometime our mind will put those things so far back, or it'll bury it so far so that you can function with the things that you're currently dealing with. And when you were just talking, I remember one of my struggles. My mom and I had went to have breakfast. We had left. We were living in South Memphis at that time, off of in the Trigg and Lauderdale area, South Memphis. And so we were staying in some apartments, and one of the things that I remember was I come home. And after eating breakfast, we went out, had a breakfast date. I was only child at that time. And I told my mom, I said, well, I'm going to go play with one of my friends, okay? And I went and I knocked on the door of one of my friend of his home. And when I got there, a lady grabbed me and slammed me down on the ground and threw my head down on the ground. That was some serious trauma, because I could not understand why, when going to knock on a door as a child and ask to speak to, can so and so come out and play, and she just grabs me and throw me on the ground. Later, as I grew up, I found out that the mom had a mental breakdown, and at that time, and she was trying to maintain, and but she took it out on me by slamming me down on the concrete as a little bitty boy. And so, and that same family, um, I don't know anything about them to this day, but I'll say that I went back there again as a child, knocking on the door
Mm.
and saying, "Hey, can so and so come out and play? He's not here. You want to come in and talk to him?" Uh, sure. And I go in, and he calls his son on the phone. Man, when you coming back home? What's going on? Where you at? Da 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 da. He said, I'm over at my grandmother's house, this, that, and the other. He said, I don't think I'll be back. And about that time, uh, his daddy come and put a knife to my throat and had molested me.
Mm.
And so I went home. And I told my mother, I said, Mom, if this happens to you, what are you supposed to do? And she immediately, when I asked her that question, knew something was wrong and called the police. From that, we attended counseling. Um, to find out, just to make sure that I was okay and that I was in a good place. Um, we we talk about struggles and sometimes uh, how people won't accept you. And so some things later in life, as I continue to grow and develop, some people say, well, it's a cry for help. Well, I don't think it was a cry for help, but I don't think it was a cry for help. And I know I'm jumping from situation to situation, but we talked again about struggles. And so I was getting in trouble in school, causing problems in the classroom. My mom worked hard to make sure that we had a pretty decent life. So, like most black moms, boy, I'm tired of coming off my job, coming up here to see about you. Now, if I had to keep coming up here to I'm gonna do blase blase. You know how our black mothers are. But I wasn't stemming. It wasn't stemming because of anything else. Some things I just wanted to be accepted, and so I had to understand that you're not going to be accepted. You are different, and there's nothing wrong with being different, but you have to learn how to embrace your difference. You are a leader, and because you are going through these various phases and you are experiencing certain things in your life that you don't understand, it is because you're going through a molding process. You're going through a process to help you to become who I have designed you to be. And so through my struggles again, and through staying in the church has helped me to become again who I am. And everybody want to talk about church hurt. Everybody wants to talk about how they have been mishandled per se in the church, and that was another thing for me. I was mishandled in the church. It didn't matter. I've always been comical, and you know me,
Yeah.
and so I've always been kind of comical and things of that nature. But I was not taken seriously or respected in the aspect that I should have, because there were things that I said out of my mouth prophetically as a child, not realizing what I was saying, that was very impactful in a positive way. And so, even with our youth department at the church back in the day, I was just different. I was not accepted. You talking to a little boy wearing a full suit and suspenders like an old man at the age of 14 and 15 years old, walking around. Hey, Doc, you doing all right? Good to see you. And so it was strange. Our youth wasn't doing that. They was in jeans and excuse me, t-shirts and tennis shoes and things of that nature. And hey, Doc, y'all, everything we had. I was in a suit. It didn't matter. My siblings would tell you it's. I've always been a preacher. Always been a preacher. My mom would tell you. My mom would tell you. The boy has always been a preacher. Now I know you talked about the first sermon preached around at the age of 11 or 12 years old or whatever. But man, I was preaching in my bedroom and preaching to the teddy bears of my baby sister in her crib while she was sitting there eating paper. In the bed. I've always been a preacher. I've always knew that this was something that I was supposed to do. It's like this here, something you just know beyond a shadow of a doubt. Nobody can take it from you. Nobody can tell you any difference. You just know beyond a reasonable doubt that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I've been preaching all my life. I would go to the park in dress shoes and slacks. I have always been a preacher. Now, take it this here. Now, dress shoes and slacks don't make you a preacher, you know what I mean? But I've always dressed and I've always carried myself as a preacher. I always knew that that's what I was supposed to be doing. Always. I mean, now all this other stuff when we talk about my business later in the segment and things of that nature and so forth. This one thing I knew for a fact that I was supposed to be doing until Christ come back. I'm dealing with something right now per se, and that is, what do you do when you have even your leader that's jealous of you? The very person that has kept their thumb on you to keep you from trying to come up, trying to advance, trying to um
Let me ask you this. So I'm gonna just put myself in your shoes. I think two things can happen, or two things can be done on your behalf. If that's a question, just directly to me or in general. Um, for one, you can have a conversation, right? They don't know how they're making you feel if they don't know. It may be intentional, it may be unintentional. However, if you truly want to know what's going on, then I think, and all leaders are not the same, but I charge people who I lead to let me know because I don't know. I think I'm going and doing it the right way,
correct.
but I may not be. I may be thinking that these parameters need to be put in place, but you may have a better idea, so to speak.
Yeah, but you've been doing this all of
Yeah.
all of you. I'm not going to say all of your life
Mhm.
per se, but you've been doing it. I know for about 17 years.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at though is now again, all leaders are not the same.
Right.
So it may be been done on purpose, but I think if that's something that you or anybody else feels, then I think it's on you to just go talk to them. Hey, can I talk? And hopefully they extend that opportunity for you to talk, or they may say, hey, come back later, and you come back later, but just try to talk because they may not know, and or
What do they do know?
if they do know, you still want to have a conversation. Number one, number two, and if it goes nowhere, then you just got to start thinking about self, and it may be time to take yourself out of that
That's
place.
correct. That's correct.
Right? Because nobody deserves to be in anything like that, especially if you're bought in, if you're a team player, if you want things to be a certain way, if you, in this case, if you're serving God, if you're trying to serve God to the best of your ability, but however you provide distraction.
Right. Correct.
So, and if whoever this person is not want to extend you that grace to be able to even listen and try to understand, then it's just time to go.
It's time, part ways.
Time to go.
That's
So
correct.
those are the two things: attempt to talk, and if the talking doesn't get there, or there's no attempt to even try to understand, then you just gave me my answer. I need to.
Definitely, most definitely. Listen now, most definitely.
You spoke. No matter what, however I come to you, I'm finna get an answer.
Yeah.
Either I'm gonna get an answer I want to hear, or I'm gonna get an answer I want to hear.
That's right. I'm gonna get an answer I want to hear, and we'll get an answer that I want to hear.
One of the two answers is gonna keep me there, and one of the two answers is gonna make me leave.
Yep.
So that's for me. That's what I would do, man. Is at the very least attempt to communicate. Now, maybe you already done that. Maybe you already got the answer. Maybe you don't want the answer that you got.
Well, now I definitely have the answer. To be honest with you, to be honest with you, but when you admire or have admired, let me put it that way, because I definitely need to go back and I need to say this. I need to say this here. I have. I was faithful to a ministry before I was married for almost 18 years. Okay. I'm talking about serving leadership. I think we talked about in the first segment, making sure that the things that the church were taking care of, the things of the pastor was taken care of, and so forth. But yet I was looked down upon as the servant or as someone that was as a nobody. And so now in this phase of my life, we left. We did some things. When I say we did some things, we went. I went over to my uncle who was pastoring here in the city of Memphis at that time, and I joined his ministry. And when I joined his ministry, there I met my wife. Prior to that, what thrust me and pushed me out of the church. Now I stayed in the church. I just switched churches. Uh, and I just told this story uh, a few hours ago, literally. I remember taking my pastor's wife home and sitting at the light. I can tell you the street and everything, but I'm not, because then you'll know the church.
Mm.
But sitting at the light, she looked over at me. She said, "Don't you think it's about your time to leave?" I said, "And leave go where?" She said, "Well, if you knew what your pastor," this came from his wife, "if you knew what your pastor really thought about you, you would probably leave the church." It didn't dawn on me until I dropped her off and got home. I got home and had some time to reflect back on her statement. I went back and I shared with my leader that very thing that uh, his wife had shared with me. And he said, "Why didn't you come to the house and talk to me about it?" I said, "Well, why would I need to come to your home and talk to you about it? Because your wife just said if I knew what you thought about me as my leader, and I'm serving you as a young man, this, that, and other, and you are literally my role model. You were literally someone who, and again, I'm a young adult. Yeah, I was a young adult, and so I said, but you are my role model, and now." Those things have been crushed within me, and so I think he was more upset and started crying and hurt because now he has found out that these pillow talks that he was having with his wife or intimate times that he was having with his wife got back to me, and so when it got back to me, I don't know if it was that if he was shamed or embarrassed or what. And he said, "Well, I asked God for a son, and I asked God for a son because we didn't have one of our own, and I do know they had been trying at one time, and that did not work. That was not successful, and so he wanted a son with his own blood, and so um, he said, and you are my son, and I'm saying to myself, man, if you treating your son like, no, I don't think I want any of this, but to make a long story short, per se, um, they called a meeting with him, his wife, and the church mother, and all of a sudden they come into this room. Come into the room. I'm sitting there because I'm the pastor's adjutant, so I'm sitting in the room quietly in a chair, waiting on him to prepare so he can go out and deliver the word that Sunday morning. And all of a sudden, it was almost like it was just a setup. His wife, the mother, church mother, comes in. Said, "Mother, we can't let anybody in right now. Pastor's studying." And she said, "No." He called me in. I said, "Pastor, you called her in?" Yeah. He called her in. He didn't say anything else. About 5 or 10 minutes later, his wife comes in. She says these exact words. I tell her or say everything that was said to me, and I guess deal with the issue face on. And she says to me, "No, honey, you got this twisted. The devil had you hearing Hebrew or Greek. I was talking English, so I don't know what you were hearing." Wait a minute now. I'm nobody's fool. You told me if I knew what my pastor thought about me, I would leave the church. No, You were hearing something else. Wait a minute. Now I don't go along just to get along. Um, but again, I was a young man, no car, no a part-time job, and so I couldn't just get him to leave the church. You know what I mean? And to so I had to go through this entire process until the service was over with. One thing I had was a cell phone in my pocket, and thinking of it now, had I called my mom or something like that, she would have come and got me. And matter of fact, she asked me, she said, "I didn't know that you were going through all of this in the church." And so um, they had me on the altar, repenting, like I had done something wrong, and later found out that she had done this to several of the pastors' members, especially the preachers, the clergy. And so pastor was spending a lot of time with me, uh, was spending a lot of time with me. And so it caused her to react in a way because he wasn't spending time with his own children, and so she had to find a way to try to run me out of there. But I'm grateful to her for running me out of the church, because had she not run me out of the church and pushed me to the next place, because God will allow things to happen in your life, to push you into another place, another purpose, another season. And so had she not done that, I would have never met the woman of my dreams, my wife now of 19 years. Yeah, 19 years. And so,
So you were in this place for a purpose, to be pushed to a different purpose.
to a different purpose. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I went to my uncle's church, and right here in Memphis, and I went and went up to the pulpit, sat down, and just kind of visited the services a couple of times. And before I knew it, it was almost like it was just an unction. Now, there are over 1,900 churches in the city of Memphis, and so it was like just an unction. I'm sitting there, and I get up and I go to the restroom, and I come back, and they're doing this was probably after the third or fourth visit or something like that. And so I'm over at my uncle's and aunt's church, and they had opened the doors of the church. And here it is. I come walking down the aisle. Now there were people that were already there at the altar. Okay, they wanted to join the church, and so they was like, we're just standing there. And I said, hey, I want to be a member too. And man, the church went up. Man, hey, my nephew is coming over here to be with us and to help in ministry. And so I joined the church, and there was a beautiful, and she's, I mean, fine brown skinned black woman. And I tell anybody, ain't nothing like a beautiful black intelligent woman. And so that got hip, lips, and fingertips. And so I saw her from the pulpit over on the other side, and I looked, and I'm like, okay, I'm checking out. I know we supposed to be studying the word. You know what I mean? I'm just, I get it. I get it. But I'm looking at her, and I got to figure out something here. We're in the next church function. When we gonna have something going on? This, that, and the other. And so we had she was over, I think, the singles ministry at the church. And she would call me, and she'd say, hey, elder, the church is having so-and-so, so-and-so. We want to invite you to be a part of it. And I said, okay. And again, you're going to hear throughout each segment of different things, about struggle. Man, I had a car that had his own brain. Mm. And I literally had his own brain. I had an Oldsmobile Royale. It was white. And it was red interior, plush. I mean, that thing was clean. Now, the paint was peeling off of it in certain areas of it, but I kept that booger clean inside and out. It had white wall tires, the spoke rims back in the day, and I kept that bad boy clean, Doc. You hear me? It was clean, it was smelling good, and I was looking good and feeling good. And so she would call me and tell me, she said, okay, the church has so-and-so going on, I want you to be a part of it. And I go out there, the car wouldn't start. I said, and you just sit in the country, and then I know I got a tank full of gas. Something wrong. And you said, come on, come on and start. Wouldn't start. They called me back, said, well, we missed you today. I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I had something came up. I was kind of ashamed to tell her, especially admiring her, that man, my car got its own brain. But then after the event, the car, I go out there, put the key in the ignition, vroom. I said, you biscuit eating son of a gun. I would go and do, this is the God honest truth. I would literally go, people would call me to come to the hospital and pray for them. And I would do hospital visitations. And either I would have to bring somebody with me and leave them in the car so the car could stay running, because if I cut it off, it may decide that, hey, I don't want to crank back up today. I'm good. You know what I mean? You done ran me long enough. Now you stuck wherever you at. You know what I mean? So it had its own mind, and so I would like have to run into the hospital. Sometimes I would leave the key in the ignition. Now they wasn't just stealing cars like they were like thing going on now as much then. So I leave the key in the ignition with the door locked, you know, and leave it running and run way to the hospital. And they was, this man move, he in a hurry, you know. So what's going on? I need to get so and so and see so and so, get to the floor. I'm on the time frame because listen, my car out there running and I'm burning gas. I spent more money gas, doc.
Did you? While running and you went to pray, did you need God to come and make a move real quick to get back?
Dog, listen, man, I went in that hospital to pray, bless you, love you, listen, anything we did, call me, this, that, another, and walk back out the hospital. Okay, car's still there, thank you, Jesus. It's still running and so forth. And so it just, again, it had its own mind. So I could not always get to these functions that the church would have. And one Sunday, the car said, I'm gonna do what's right. And I'm gonna crank up and let you go to church this Sunday. And I went to church that Sunday. And one of the brothers, he's on the Memphis Police Department, a good friend of mine, and a preacher. He said, Elder Walker, the church going out to dinner. Let's go. And I said, okay. He said, but somebody was in a car accident on that Sunday. I never forget it. He said somebody was in a car accident, and he wanted me to go to the hospital with him to go see about them. And I said okay. And so he asked my wife at that time. At that time, she was Sister Smith. She said, Sister Smith, you going out to dinner or whatever with the church? She said, no, I don't have any money to go out and go out to dinner. The preacher said, "Oh, Elder Walker, he'll pay for it. Ain't no problem." Beg your pardon. Well, I was already like, he didn't know it. Nobody knew it but the Lord. But it was a very prophetic church. Went in my pocket and pulled out a knot that thick. At that time, I was working 3 jobs, literally. I was working 3 jobs. Pulled out a knot, peeled out. I peeled off some money and gave it to her. And then I met her at the restaurant. And she said, well, here you change. I said, no, you keep that. Do you need anything else? You're good. I heard you say you didn't have anything. And from there, the rest was history. She has been my wife of 19 years. I did not date her long. I think it was maybe about 6 months. And I jumped, and I, look, will you marry me? And of course the rest is history. But now the other part to this story is, at that time I had not I had not obtained my doctorate in theology, and so my wife, very intelligent. She has a degree in biology and chemistry, and she was just a couple of years from being a doctor, and so. I didn't want to mess it up, so people were going around. And again, you know me, and other those that interact with me, they know me. She said, Ella Walker, why are you so quiet? She said, he always quiet. No, he ain't. Yeah, he always quiet. And so he said, oh, okay. And they left her alone. And I was looking, kind of in her face and, cross my eye while she wasn't looking like, man, y'all shut up. Just be quiet. Don't say anything. I said, and they said, wait, why are you quiet? Listen. We ain't doing nothing to mess this up. You know what I'm saying? We ain't saying nothing to mess this up. And so therefore I was quiet. But Doc, when I got married, boom, all that quietness and shyness, I did that for about 3 to 4 months, and folk could not believe that. And he was just so nice and so this, that, and the other. That's what she saw. Yeah. Everybody else on the other side said, this man is different. It's kind of like when you give your life to Christ and, old things pass away, all things become new. When this woman came into my life, old things passed away, I put them away on the shelf for me. Because I said, yeah, on the shelf. I said, because I want this woman here, And so I've had her now for 19 years. And this year, in 2025 would be our 20th year of marriage.
It's a good story, man. It really is.
When you know what you want and what you're go ahead and get it.
You know what you want, you're going to act right, too.
That's right. That's right. You're going to act right. That's right. And so I went, and listen,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I didn't date long. I didn't believe in all of that. I'm a young, vibrant, energetic man who testosterone level is above the roof, and I've been taught again. Remember now, I've been in church all my life. Okay, this is what I know, and so if we're going to do, if I'm going to have intercourse, I've been it's supposed to be in marriage between a husband and a wife. Okay, and so therefore we don't date long. You date long, you date wrong. Okay, that's all. You date long, you date wrong. And so I knew what I wanted, and I went after it. And I think for those that are listening to the podcast today, as silly as it may sound, or don't take it lightly. Go after whatever you're trying to achieve. Don't allow anybody to tell you what you can't have, what you won't be, what you can't do, where you can't go. Because when people put that stuff out on you, or this, that, and that, if you accept it, it would change the trajectory of your life and where you're supposed to go. Don't allow anybody in your circle that does not share the same vision, the same goals that you're trying, and doesn't have the same drive and ambition as you do. If you're the only somebody in your circle that has that, then you need to check your circle, because you cannot afford to waste time and allow people to just say in and everything to you and expect or think that you're supposed to just take it. And so I've always been one that have had goals, that have always tried to reach for the moon, and sometimes have landed among the stars, but I'm still just a step away from the moon. I just got to figure out a way to get there. And so you can't allow circumstances and situations in life to keep you back or to hold you back. You got to find a way to overcome these things and keep moving. It's okay to pout. It's okay to have your pity party. It's okay to deal with the emotional side of things if you feel like you failed in a particular area or something didn't work. It's okay. But very soon and very quickly, dust your feet off and shake it off you and keep moving. Keep going, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You may not see it, but it is a light. Listen, there's not a storm that I've never seen that did not pass. There's not a storm, Doc, that I don't care how long it seemed and how dreary it has gotten. There's not a storm that I've never seen that did not pass. And I say that with so much conviction because it is so true. And, with this show, I want to say thank you again, because it gives you an opportunity again to know who I am. And it gives you an opportunity to know why I act and react the way that I do, and respond in certain areas of my life, in certain areas or whatever, because it's the things that I've been through. Mm. It's the things that I have had to deal with. It's the things that I've had to overcome. It's the things that that I have struggled with. You follow what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why I do, sir. And to some folk, it may not make sense, but it makes sense to me, because I'm looking from a standpoint of trying to survive. I'm looking at a standpoint. I'm coming from a standpoint of trying to show you that the sky is the limit, and you can achieve whatever you want to if you believe in yourself. All it takes is one person, glory to God, to believe in you, Doc. Just one person outside of you. Outside of you. All it takes is one person. Just one. And I've had people that God have sent in my life. Some are still there and some are gone. But they help to mold me in some kind of way, or left me a gold nugget to help shape and fashion me to be where I am. And again, yes, it still has come through the church as well. It has come through the church. Hands down, it has come through the church. So those of you all who thinking the church doesn't have anything to offer, get in church, get involved, and it will change your life. God will change your life. I'm not saying I was one of those bad guys that was running up down the street, gang banging, smoking, and shooting and thugging out this, that, and the other. That's not been my life, okay? But it could have been had I not been in the church, okay? It could have been. It could have been because there was no at that time there was no male role models, or just not just strong, positive male role models that were in my life. You understand what I'm saying to you? And so, yeah, get in the church.
I want to shift a little bit because when I found this out about you, it kind of shocked me, and I wasn't shocked, but I was shocked, like in the timing. But I knew that you probably would do it. You ran for state representative, which is certainly not a small feat. What inspired you to take that step into politics, and how did that experience shape your outlook on leadership and purpose?
I've always tried to look for ways to serve people and to help make other people's lives better, always. And I wanted to be able to somewhat have a balance, meaning that, okay, I've got the spiritual side down and I'm serving people in the church, but I could do more in the community by helping help to change laws, helping to provide resources for people that don't have these things. You know, most people don't not going to honestly take time to read legislative laws and bills and things of that nature, and so therefore they don't know what's out there to help them to acquire or to achieve what they're trying to do and their goals as well. There's funding and there all kinds of things out there, but people won't. They don't know it because it's in the bills. Okay, and so my purpose for running was to serve my community and make a better life for the constituents in DeSoto County, Mississippi. One of the things that I found out that we had a lot of was a lot of people who uh, needed daycare treatments, adult daycare centers, so that people could work their jobs and not have to take care or not have to take care of a senior or someone with a mental disability um, while they were working. So a lot of the people, again, that I ran into were struggling because of a loved one that had a mental disability or some type of ailment that they could not go to work anymore, and their caretaker could not go to work anymore, and they were struggling financially. They were hurting, and they were saying, "Listen, if you could get in office, can you help me by trying to get a bill passed or get something done so that we can get something in this area where I can drop off my loved one for care during these particular hours so that I can go to work and make a decent living because I'm struggling. We're about to lose our house. We're about to lose this, that, and the other, and so forth." And it really touched me. I met a lot of people that were hurting from different aspects and walks of life that were hurting on the campaign trail. And it just fueled me even the more to say, listen, I need to try to bring about a change, a positive change at that, into the community whereby I live. DeSoto County is one of the fastest growing counties and one of the largest counties in the state of Mississippi right now. And so my focus was to bring resources and bring dollars uh, and strengthen the infrastructure of DeSoto County because we are growing in leaps and bounds. People are leaving Shelby County, Tennessee, and they're crossing over because they want a better life. They don't want to deal with all of the rigmarole. They don't want to deal with all of the taxes and the politics per se in Shelby County, Tennessee. And so I wanted to make sure that there were things in place so that everybody had a fair chance to raise a family in this community, in this county. Um, I lost the uh, the election, but it was my first time running, and so
Do you think you'll run again?
I was devastated.
Were you? But it was a learning lesson,
It
though,
was
right?
it was a learning lesson.
Right,
Absolutely.
To your point, you never ran.
I never
You
ran.
got your feet wet.
Got my feet wet. Absolutely.
You probably got completely wet.
Yeah, very wet.
Right.
Politics
Yeah.
is once you open that door to politics, it's definitely something that that sticks with you. It is a serious game changer, and it is a serious. It changes it changes your mindset and your focus.
But you learned a lot, though, right?
I mean, a whole lot, a whole lot.
So I'm not putting you out there to say you're gonna run again, but
Well,
if you ran again,
mm-hmm.
like what do you think you need to do differently to have a better outcome?
Well, it's just put in the work. Just put in the work. I think that once people see your sincerity, they see your name out there often. They hear more about you. They know that you are genuinely concerned about working on their behalf. Because take it as this here. State representative is a prestigious position, but it doesn't pay a whole lot of money at all in the state of Mississippi. So um, therefore, you got to be in it for real for the people. And so, because I have a business, I wasn't looking per se at money, because I have a job. Okay, that I work, and so I'm looking honestly to work for the sake of the people, and that was my whole thing. Let me work for you. Let me see if I can bring about change. Let me see if we can both sit down at the table and we can agree and that we can reason, because we need a voice. And one of the things that is in DeSoto County, Mississippi, excuse me, is there are not enough African Americans that are in political leadership in that area, or political leadership, and even in the church. And so that has to change. Now, it's changing now, but it's a slow turn, okay? It's a slow turn. I try not to necessarily tell people my stance because, or my political party, but when I ran for office, they found out very quickly exactly who I was and what I stood for. And it was hard for African Americans to believe that this black man is a Republican. There is no way. These white folk got you brainwashed. No, they ain't got me brainwashed. This is a decision and a choice that I have made for myself. See, my family, my house, not my family, but it's still my family. In my family, and I'm not talking about my household, on my mom's side, everybody has always been known as a Democrat, okay? Well, listen, that's that's your thing. My thing was, I can't sit here and bust my tail every day and sit here and let the government give my money away to folk that don't want to work. I can't sit around here and allow you to pass certain rules and bills and things like that for same-sex marriages and think it's okay. I can't sit here and allow you to say it's okay to do abortion. It's not okay for abortion only unless it's life-threatening to the mother or the child. You know what I'm saying? That's the only way, or that's the only way. Even if that child even if that mother or was molested for whatever reason, there's no need for abortion. And so people, look at me like, man, come on, but doc, they doing this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. And so that was, it was a fight. Matter of fact, just last year, a pastor here in the city him, his church, and his family. They were on my listen. I could handle it. It didn't make me any difference. They looked at me and talked crazy, did that and other, and I had a rebuttal or response for them for every answer. This that and response for them. Because listen, you're not gonna still change my mind. I don't care because there's 75 of y'all sitting up here in this church, and we talking about politics. This, that, and the, you ain't finna change my mind. My mind still say I'm Republican. Like it or not, take it or leave it. I have, certain values and certain opinions and certain thought processes that, again, that has formulated within me that I just feel like I've got to stick with it.
Let me
leader.
let me jump in there because during this last election cycle, it's apparent that a lot more black men started to vote Republican in general. Now, were you always Republican? Were you Democrat at one time, or like what?
I was.
You was Democrat at one time.
I was Democratic.
So what made that? What became apparent? Like, okay, I've always been this way. Here are usually the results. Why am I still voting Democrat? What made you switch to Republican?
My mother was a single black mother who worked every day. I remember seeing her get in the car one day, and she was crying. And let me back up for a second. I want to tell the story just as it happened. My mother would tell me to go out and start warming the car up every morning. And I saw her go out to the car and cry. She said, I'm tired. I just don't feel like going in today. But she knew that she had responsibilities. And I watched my mother over a period of time being a Democratic and being a black African-American strong woman. I watched over a period of time how she worked hard. And she worked, but I didn't see the change. Okay, I didn't see the change. My mom grew up in an era where you would talk. You work hard. You say whatever you can. You know what I mean. But you put. You take care of you take care of your family, and you go on. Okay, but she struggled, and I didn't see a difference with her. With her. All I saw was it was constantly working. It was constantly saying that she was constantly saying she was tired. She was constantly saying that she was being beaten, mentally and physically, and she was coming home drained every day. And so it was that changed my scope on things. So when I got married in 2005, which was 19 years ago, when I got married, I said, I'm going to be the breaker. I'm going to do something different. And I went and I ran and I became a Republican because I saw some of the things that they were doing, and I saw what the Democratic Party was doing. But as a culture of people, we were not advancing. Okay, I was in the church. I saw that the pastor who I was serving at that time had very nice things. He dressed well. He dressed nice, and he had all the things that, as a young man, that I desired and longed for. And so I said, "Listen, in order to have something different, you got to do something different." And so I just made a complete 180, not 360, but a complete 180, and said, "You know what? This is the direction I'm going to move in moving forward." And surely when I got a business, as a Republican, it has helped me on the business side of it, because it has opened doors and provided opportunities for me, not because of the customers or things of that nature. Because in our area, in this area here, there's a crab mentality. and people don't want to see you go up. And you can get to the top of the bucket, you just can't get out of the bucket. Okay, and so I had to learn how to maneuver, and I had to learn how to had to do things. And it wasn't until I started reading certain bills and certain laws and getting involved in certain things that, hey man, listen, it's good to be a Republican. My brother is a Republican. Now my mom and them, all of them, they still a Democrat.
Hardcore.
Yeah, they still a Democrat. And so mom said, "You and your brother going up there to go see President Trump get elected?" I said, "I don't think I'm gonna make it, but this year, but she said, man, y'all just, but my brother, he's a businessman and retired ex-military. And so our mindsets are pretty much the same when it comes to dealing with business and ministry and trying to bring about, again, a positive change for the community and those we come in contact with. Life is about making an impact, a positive impact, and we don't just want to do that behind four walls. We want to do it everywhere that we are.
Now, you touched a little bit on business. Now, your business, the Walker Group,
Yes, sir.
with it, you prioritize safety and luxury. What inspired you to build this company, and how does it tie into your overall mission?
We said something, and you and I have always talked about this here off camera, creating legacies, number one. Number two was, we said this today, when a man tells me I can't do something, or I can't achieve, or I cannot accomplish a particular goal that I have set in mind, then I've got to show you that it can be done. I don't know what oppositions that he or she may have encountered in their life that has stopped them from dreaming, that has stopped them or caused them to be so negative in their response and telling people what you can't do. Can't is not in my vocabulary. That's not in my vocabulary. Now, we may have to go around another way to try to get some things done to make it happen. We may have to find some different avenues and channels, but can't is not an option. That's not an option for me. And so, again, it stems back from, I've had people that said I wouldn't be anything. I wouldn't have anything. You know what I mean? I wouldn't amount to anything. My own mother told me that one time. My own mother told me that. So now I'm being hit in the church. I'm being hit at home. And so there was for me, there was no balance because, I'm not fitting in at home, you know what I mean? And doing, what my mom think that I should be doing as a child, because I'm still aiming and reaching for the stars. I'm not doing what the pastor would have me to do because he thinks I'm too immature to handle the position. I'm not fitting in with the youth because I'm a strange guy. I'm in between an old man and a young man. In other words, I've got old man attributes and ways, but but I'm in a young man's body, and so now I can't relate to them, and so now so now we've got a conflict, and so you're hearing people tell you what you can't do all your life. You're telling people, you're hearing people telling you what you're not going to accomplish. Let me say this here. When I first decided years ago to run for office, because I was going to run for office prior to what you see on record now. I was going to run for office prior to, and I was going to actually run for city alderman. And when I told my mom that, because I want make her proud and see what she thought, here we go again. And pardon my language, but she said, "Nigga, is you crazy? Man, them white folk, blah, 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 blah. You don't know enough about politics and this, that, and the other." Well, yeah, I don't have to know enough about politics. What I do know is I know how to serve and I know how to love people. I know how to do that. I know how to serve people and I know how to love people. And so she said, "You just always want to be in the light. You just always want to." No, ma'am. No, ma'am. You have a different take a different stance. And I said, Mom, let me do this here. And I had to put my foot down that day because something I remember sitting in the car and my head just literally just did this here because I mean I just snapped. And I told her, I said, listen, and I'm gonna be very candid with you. Do not call this number again until you have something positive to say to me. You will not cause me to stagger or hinder me or anyone else. I said, I would think that you would be proud of me for what I'm trying to accomplish and trying to do. And if you can't be proud of me, then don't call me. I said, just because you didn't do nothing with your life, don't mean that I'm not going to do nothing with mine. I'm going to break the monotony. I'm going to do something different so that I can have a legacy to leave my family one day. And it's going to be left on the books. This man changed the trajectory of thousands of lives because he did this.
Why do you think that is? You trying to do something positive, right? And you want people to be excited about what you're trying to do because it's positive.
Yes, sir.
And you take it to people that you love,
think, yeah,
you love,
I
you
love,
think they love you for sure,
correct.
and you kind of get that negative feedback or that pushback, or where you thought you was gonna get encouragement, you get discouragement. Why do you think that? Like, because I've experienced that too as well. Why do you think we get that from the people we love the most sometimes?
That's a good question. I think sometimes people are trying to protect you, or they call themselves, they think they're trying to protect you. And so they don't want you to be involved in certain things that they think is going to cause detrimental harm to you. They don't mean any, sometimes they speak out before a term, and I don't think they really mean any harm. I think that they just have an uneducated response to you because they're not familiar with what you're really trying to do. It's kind of like this here. You say, well, okay, I'm going to go open up my business. And so, well, you hadn't been to school for business. How you going to run a business? You haven't been so and so. How you going to do this? Da, 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 da. And so it's always something different it's always a different comeback. And so I think that they're just not educated in the sense of knowing what you actually know about what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve. And so therefore I think that's why you get the negativity. Also, it has a lot to do of how they were raised in the era that they came up in as well,
Yeah.
and what they were taught from their parents. And so, again, somebody has to go beyond the threshold and break the cycle of the same thing over and over and over and over again. We have to do. You can't say that I'm gonna have an apple tree and you plant lemon seeds. It doesn't operate that way. We and I think that is by design, by God, because there's some people that when you tell them that your goals or that you love, or you share with them, you find out their heart towards you. You really find out their heart towards you and what they really think of you. You really get an opportunity if they have been hiding something from you down through the years, and you were just kind of naive and didn't know what what they were doing or what to expect. When you see them and you tell them and share with them what you're trying to do, I think a lot of times that has a lot to do with it in the aspect of saying, you know what, uh, if I don't do something to try to deter him, he's going to make me look bad. Because sometimes people have what word am I looking for? They have a negative connotation about themselves. And so when you bring something to them in this aspect, it's saying, well, man, I wish I had done the same thing back when I was your age. I wish that I was reaching for the stars. I wish that I was trying to get up there and walk on the moon, per se. And so, because they didn't achieve those, sometimes they get jealous.
Yeah.
And you have to understand, I've had to deal with jealousy from my church leaders. I've had to deal with jealousy from my own biological mom because I dream big.
Yeah.
The sermons that I preach, even I don't care where I'm at, even at your dad church, about dreaming big and dreaming again and having a vision and having goals. I'm not just preaching that to you, I'm living it. I'm walking it out. At home on my refrigerator, I have a declaration and confession of faith that I believe God is going to do for me. And I want to say this here for real because I need you to hear to really hear my heart and for your viewers to hear me as well. At 16 years old, if I could at 16 years old, my mother will tell you that I had a confession of faith wall in her house in my bedroom. And I wrote out what I believed God was going to do in my life. I raised my hand. I raised my hand. I had a confession of faith on the wall. And I'm just crazy enough to believe God, Tim. I'm serious. I'm crazy enough to believe God, just like that. And I had a confession of faith on the wall, and I framed it. And it wasn't until, and don't quote me on it, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I walked back into my bedroom in my mother's house, and I looked around, just looking around my room, and was talking and laughing with mom. And I looked on the wall, and my confession of faith was still on the wall in her home. And I read it off, and everything that I had said I believed God was going to do for me had been completed. And I said to myself again, I said, well, I'm going to have to create another confession of faith of what I believe God is going to do in my life. And it's at home now on the refrigerator, hanging up. And every time I go to the refrigerator door, I believe God to do that. I type things up. I had people that honestly said that, man, I'm talking about, and it just wasn't in the church. I had business owners and people that thought that I was just too knucklehead to even accomplish certain things and tried to hold me back. And I would work other people's job. Hear me good. I would work on other people's job, being faithful over a few things so that God can make me rule over much. I would be on other folks' job doing what I do now. And I would have a confession of faith that I kept in my wallet. And before I got ready to go to work every day, I would say, God gonna do this for me. I would go to the back somewhere before I got with the clients and stuff like that, and I would quote it, and I would declare and I would decree it, and I would fold it up and put it back in my pocket and say, one day God's gonna do this for me. One day it's gonna happen for me. And God did that. Do you hear me?
Yeah, amen.
Man, he did that for me. And I'm grateful. And that's the reason why I sit in your chair with tears in my eye and say, if it had not been for the Lord, man, you're not going to tell me and anybody else going to tell me what faith in God will not allow you to accomplish and do. Nothing. Man, I set goals and I believe God. Now, it may take a while to get there and it may be frustrating along the way, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to achieve them. It doesn't mean that you're not going to achieve those things. And so I walked around with a faith confession for years. And I've watched the faithfulness of God. As a young man, I'm 43, I'll be 44 this month. I've watched God or God's hand upon my life, all of my life. I've watched his hand upon my life, all of the days of my life. You're talking to a man that has a doctorate of divinity. You're talking to a man who is an Eagle Scout. You're talking to a man who has set up other reformations for other ecumenical leaders. You're talking to a man who has served as the United States Secret Service chaplain in Washington D.C. You're talking to, and I've got the insignias at home to show it. You're talking to a man who has been counted out kicked to the side, laughed at, ostracized, ridiculed, and persecuted. And yet God keep finding favor to do what he does in my life.
Some powerful stuff, man. Powerful stuff. So as we come to an end of this amazing story, that I'm hoping is touching a lot. It's touching me. Uh, what would you tell your younger self? What would you go back in time and tell your younger self differently uh, versus what you know now?
I wish I had started earlier.
Earlier than 11?
I wish I had started earlier. From the preaching to the politics to the businesses, I wish I had started earlier.
Yeah.
Because we only have so much time to be down here on earth to make a difference and to bring about a positive change.
Yeah.
I wish I had started, excuse me, a little bit earlier. And I understand some things that you have to grow into. Some things will be placed, some things are kind of placed at your feet and given to you, and you may not know how to deal with it or to handle it at that time. And so it takes time, it takes growth, it takes maturity, and the wisdom of God to be able to deal with certain things. But I find out for me, and everybody's different, Tim. Okay, everybody like you said, everybody has a different story. Everybody has the potential and the ability to be something. It's just, what is it that you want to be? Where's your focus? Where's your focus? And so for me, I would say again, I wish that I had started earlier. God has, again, man, bestowed so much wisdom upon my life. I'm talking about so much wisdom. Dude, I have cried more today in this podcast than I have done in a long time. It has been spending time, intimate moments with God, and sitting there and allowing Him to download things into you to help you to accomplish His purpose in your life. And when you are doing His purpose and you are following after God's heart, man, listen, the sky is the limit. There is nothing that God won't do for you. And the very folk, Tim, that will tell you what you can't do, what you can't have, and you can't succeed, and you won't be this and you won't be that. I'm thankful to those people today. I really am. It's not just because they said those things to me or behind my back that helped fuel me, but it also gave God an opportunity to work in my life and to show them that I choose whom I want to choose, and I do what I want to do because I am God, and I have my hand upon His life. And so, so I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Look, I hear sniffles all in the room. I don't know if folk got colds or what, but I hear you folk in the background. I don't know if it's my story that's touching their lives or what, but it's with all sincerity. It's with all sincerity. Do not allow anybody to tell you what you can't do. Do not allow anybody to put any negative thing or thought into your spirit about you when you know you. When I was birthing the Walker group, Tim, I had people that were laughing at me and talking all this, that, and the other, and so forth. But I said, God gonna do it. God gonna do it. I've told this story before. I would sit with the front door open, glory to God, because I would expect God to do something for me. And so I would speak prophetically into the atmosphere and say, UPS is coming to bring me a check. UPS is coming to be a blessing to me. Somebody is finna be a blessing to me. I would talk about FedEx coming down the street and being a blessing to me. And I would see FedEx and UPS would come down the street. And I mean, and I'm literally, every time I would see them come down the street, and they would pull in front of my house, get out of the truck and go across the street or go to the house behind me or next door on the other side of me. I said, that's all right. At least they're getting closer. At least they're getting closer. At least I know that the atmosphere is hearing what I'm saying about me and about my life. And so I would constantly say that I would literally get up every morning and open the front door, waiting on somebody to knock on the door and bring my blessing, bring my miracle to me. I would go upstairs. My wife would tell you, I would go upstairs, and I would lock myself up upstairs for days at a time in prayer and fasting upstairs in my home, seeking God for a breakthrough, trying to get an answer, trying to figure out what's going on, or why is it taking so long for me to succeed or to get to where I'm trying to go. And right in my own home. See, I'm not perfect. All of my I's are not dotted and all my T's are not crossed. So I don't want to sit here like I just got it all together, because I don't. Okay. I need to be very transparent. I do not. Okay. I'm just an old dirt bag filled with the glory of God. And the thing is that I would go and lock myself up in prayer and fasting and seeking God's face, and wouldn't come down until I got an answer. And sometimes God wouldn't speak, and that brought more frustration. But I had to learn how to wait on him. And that took something to learn how to wait on him to bring it to pass. Because a lot of times, if we go out and do a particular thing in our own strength and ability, and try to make it happen, it does not work. We end up spinning our wheels or digging ourselves into a deeper hole. And so I would, and I'm telling you that out of experience as well, from that aspect as well. And so I would even take my credit card and say, baby, I'm going on a sabbatical. I'm going on a sabbatical. Now that didn't last long. I don't do sabbaticals. I hadn't done a sabbatical and I don't know when. But I'm going on a sabbatical, and I would go get a hotel room right here in the city, and I would just cry out to God. And I said, well, I done had enough of this. I done wasted my money because, listen, I done wasted my money because I'm going home with my wife. I'm spending all this time here at the hotel I'm reading my Bible. I'm seeking the face of God, and when I do my sabbaticals like that, I tell hotel staff, go ahead and shut the TVs down, or pull them out of the room. I don't want a room with a TV in it. And they're like, what? Take the TV out. I don't want any room service. I don't want any room service. Take the TV out of the room. And I'm going to disconnect the phone here at the hotel because I want to spend time in talking to the Lord. It was just that serious for me. And so I would hear oftentimes, man, people would walk up down the hallways of the hotel rooms when I was doing my sabbaticals and things like that. And it was like, they were just standing there at the door, and because after a while of praying, and you just kind of walk around the hotel room, and just kind of, just not out of nervousness or not out of nervousness, but maybe out of anxiousness, and just kind of walking, waiting, trying to get an answer. And people say, I'm just drawn to this room. I don't know what it is, and God allows me and give me the opportunity to minister to them right there at the hotel or whatever. But I don't do a lot of sabbaticals anymore. My purpose is to inform your viewers that no matter what you go through in life, it's not to make you bitter, but rather to make you better. It's not to tear you down, but to build you up. You just have to find the positiveness in a situation. If God allowed you to overcome or get out of this situation, then surely there's much more to life than my past hurt, pains, and sufferings and struggles. But I've got to see what's ahead of me. And sometimes life throws so much at us that we can't see those things. There's a saying, I can't see the trees for the forest, and that's because you in the middle of it, you in the midst of it. And you ever wonder why, like how you're going through a particular thing, and somebody tells you, man, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna be all right. Well, how do you know? You know what I mean? How do you know? That's because God is by design. It's by design that somebody else, God sent somebody else that can see a little bit further down the road than you can, or has been through something that that you're going through right now, and they can say, "Hey, you're going to be okay. You're going to make it. It's going to get better. Don't worry. God has your back." And again, I ain't trying to take your. I'm not trying. I didn't try to take your viewers today, to church or nothing like that. But I'm just sharing. Listen, I'm just sharing my heart. It has been the Lord and His goodness and His faithfulness towards me. One thing as a man, my desire, take care of my family, take care of my family, take care of my family. Make sure that they have the best of the best. Make sure that they are taken care of. That has been my goal. That has been my aspect. And because my heart is pure toward that, and it's not malicious toward hurting people or doing anything, God honors that. He honors that. He does. My wife is very quiet woman. Now, when she says something, when she speaks, she definitely has something to say. But she quietly sits in the background on the sidelines and prays for me. She quietly supports me. She has a prayer box. I have a prayer box at home as well, but she has a prayer box, and man, that thing is probably smaller than a penny. And it goes around her neck. Okay, it's a necklace, but it's a little small box about that size. It's a prayer box, and she's written. She found a way to write in very small letters uh, a prayer concerning her husband, and she's folded it up and she wears it around her neck. She supports me. She loves me when in my struggles or in my haste that I have made mistakes or led my family in the wrong direction per se, not by uh, not trying to do it, unintentionally. She has never beat me down. She's never fought or said anything negative against me. She has kept praying. She has kept praying, and she has been there to support me in not only my struggles. When there was lack, she picked up the slack. When I couldn't figure it out, and I try not to honestly get emotional around my wife. I'm her superhero. You know what I mean? I'm my son's Superman. I'm sorry, I'm my wife's superhero, and I'm my son's Superman. Okay, and so I try not to get emotional a whole lot around them, which causes me to get become frustrated because I got to let it out. I got to release it somewhere. Somewhere. But as a man, I've got to be strong for them.
Right.
And so there's certain things that I don't share with them. There's certain things I don't even inform them about because guess what? I'm their protector. I'm their provider. Again, I'm their Superman and I'm my son's Superman. And so I'm the Superman and superhero of the house. And so I deal with it internally. I deal with it emotionally, and that's one of the things that causes me to have to pray a lot more, okay? Because as I continue to grow and develop and mature in my own walk in life, I realize you can't share everything with everybody. You can't embrace everybody. You can't bring everybody into your circle. You can't help everybody. And so a lot of things I've had to take to the Lord in prayer and just stay there and battle it out on a spiritual level, okay? Um, and I've had to do that a lot. And it's fine. I'm fine with it. Me and God, hey, we like this here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We like that. But I've had to do that because people are so fickle, and you'll start or build a relationship with a person, and you can do one little thing that will cause them to be jealous or dislike you or hate you. You can say one little thing that you will see the real side of them. You follow what I'm saying to you? And then not everybody is meant to be in your life. Some people are designed to come in for a season to help take you from point A to point B and to leave you there, and then someone else will come along. Someone else will come along to help take you further. And so that's where I'm at. Man, I am truly great. Listen, this is therapeutic for me to sit here in this studio today and to share my story, hoping that it would touch the hearts and the minds of those individuals that are viewing it or listening to it, because they need to understand that, hey, I'm a legal, licensed, consecrated, ordained bishop now, and in the Lord's church. But I have my own struggles. I deal with things, and I deal with things on a daily basis. I have things that I'm yet trying to strive for and overcome. And it's called life. You know what I mean? And we're going to have those things until Christ come back and receive us unto His own. So I get it, but it's how you handle it, and it's the way about that you go about in doing it.
Gotcha. Well, man, I really appreciate you blessing us with your presence. Certainly, as I knew that you certainly had a story to tell. Definitely got some in-depth behind who you are, what makes you, and the things that you went through to get to where you are and how you are. And I can definitely appreciate you being here, and I'm hoping, and I believe it too. I believe that your story does touch those that would be listening or looking at this show today. So again, thank you.
Man, thanks for having me, my friend.
Oh man, I'm glad you showed up.
We try to keep our word, and I told you that. I said that's all I got is my word. So I try not to speak so fast or say what I'm going to do, because I was taught this here, even by the leader that hurt me. You have to keep your word, even if it hurts you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just in terms of you showing up, I'm glad you showed up because I knew you had something that would be impactful, and I wanted people to know. So thank you.
Man, from my heart to yours, thank you.
Wow, what an episode. Dr. Progeorlan Walker just gave us a masterclass in living with purpose. From faith to business to community leadership, his story proves that no matter where you start, your purpose can take you anywhere. Now, it's your turn. What's one action you will take today to get closer to your purpose? Let us know in the comments. Share this episode with someone who needs it. And don't forget, subscribe to the Purpose Pursuit podcast with Tim Batts. To everyone out there, remember, your purpose won't find you. You've got to go after it. Go build a life you're proud of, and we'll see you next time.